This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast. Hello, everybody. This is the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. My name is Alan Katz.
And I'm here with him, and I'm Gil Adler.
And I'm so glad that Gil Adler is here with me, although it is a virtual with and not a literal with. You know, back in the day, we're used to working in the same room. Working in this same room is kind of odd because you're in Vancouver.
I am, but
West
you look
Vancouver.
like you look like you're in the same room.
I feel like I'm in the same room.
But you know what I feel like doing today? You know what I feel like doing today?
What do you feel like doing today?
I feel like casting a movie. We're not making a movie at the moment, but I feel like casting one. And you know who our guest is today?
It's funny. It's like you're casting about for something, which is the title of today's episode. Casting about with our guest Victoria Burrows.
One of the best.
Oh, Victoria. Victoria, in addition to casting Tales from the Crypt and a couple of Crypt movies, Victoria, she casts every movie that Bob Zemeckis makes, and she casts all the Lord of the Ring movies, and wow, she is one of the biggest casting agents in the whole world, and she's our friend. So without any further ado, let me haul her in. Hey, voila! By the magic of all things, virtual, we now have Victoria in the room with us.
Ta-da! And scene.
Oh, that we could all be in a room together. That will be what a glorious day that will be when we can pull that off again.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It is fun being in a room, working together. I mean, it's great for actors to self-tape, but when we get to see them live, it's extra special for me.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of the difference between a movie performance and a theatrical performance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little more electricity because it's not edited.
Yeah.
So it's. Yeah. We will get to the intimacies of the casting process down the road, but we're leaping ahead of ourselves. First of all, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
You're in Houston, right?
Yes.
And you like it down there?
It's hot.
Humid.
I think that's the first thing everybody says.
Yeah.
It's bloody hot.
Yeah.
I'm back and forth, LA, Houston. But it's, spending time with family.
A very important thing to do, as you get to a certain point down this path, one's values shift a little bit.
Yeah. And as we've learned from the pandemic, we can be anywhere and still do the work that we need to, and everybody's a plane right away, as is the actors, as the producers, as when you put together a team, they all come in.
Indeed.
Very different than the way we did things before pandemic or 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, just so that we create a frame of reference for you. Now you've been in casting really pretty much from the get-go. You've always been in casting, I think. But when you started out in life, you're from LA. Are you from?
Yes, born and raised Malibuian.
Wow. Wow. So you grew up at the beach?
Yeah, I did. Never got a tan, but I did.
Yep. And so being a product of LA, how did you end up in casting to begin with? What dragged you? Was this a natural place to end up? Did you fall into it? Were you dragged into it, or what happened?
Oh, so I got fired from every job I ever did because I didn't know what I wanted to be as I was growing up.
What kind of jobs did you get fired from?
Um, I worked at Orange Julius. I probably got fired from that. I worked at a movie theater. I think that's one I didn't get fired from in the concession. I worked for a film distribution company and got fired from that. I worked at the hotel down in accounts payable. I got fired from that. I worked at another accounts payable. Yeah, those kind of things. So then my mother, who's an astrologer, sat me down and she's like, let's talk about career, And she said middle management in the arts. And
middle management in the arts. Okay.
Yeah. And that's how she put it, because she didn't know the business. She's an astrologer. She was a mom,
I don't want to go past this point too quickly. Your mom was an astrologer?
Yes. A damn good one too.
Wow. Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah, that kind of takes us on another thing, because she wanted to understand me as I was a rebel without a cause as a teenager. So, and she found astrology to help understand me and others, of course. Huh. So anyway, so she sat me down.
That's very cool. So that was a means to an end to help to help figure you out.
Yeah, and I met a boy that was a writer, a starving writer, and we were living together. And so this is around the time that she was telling me, because I was like, how do I get in the arts? What are the arts? What part of the arts? And you're thinking all these things.
Where in LA are you living this time? Are you still?
At this point, I'm living in West Hollywood. I was in West Hollywood.
And yet my boyfriend. You might as well be living on the moon, because strangely to get even from there into the magic castle, how do you crack it? How do you crack it?
Yeah, it was, well, at that point you're looking at the Hollywood Reporter and the Variety, and that's how I cracked it. It was, I had nobody that I really knew, nobody in business, and the people that I was running into were all about sexual harassment and drugs, and so I was trying to manage my way through that, and so I was offered this. Well, I interviewed to be a writer's assistant with no skills at all. Needless to say, I found out.
Don't be so sure the writers had any skills either. So
yeah, it was Lonnie Elder, who wrote Sounder.
Whoa, wow. That was the assistant, that was the writer that you were assisting?
Yes, I was supposed to be his assistant, and
take back what I said.
Yeah, Ike Jones was a producer there at the offices. It was Stanley Jaffe's company.
Wow. So your first showbiz job was working under the umbrella of Stanley Jaffe's company for the guy who wrote Sounder.
Yeah, Lonnie had an office in the back. So the day before I was supposed to start the job, I was demoted to receptionist at the front desk of the company. Now,
we'd like to say we've added conditions and more responsibility to your job as the writer's assistant, as opposed to we got fired and I got demoted. I think it's nicer if you say they added more responsibility.
I think it was other things that I wasn't willing to do. So that's why I ended up as a receptionist. So as I was a receptionist, I watched Mel Gibson and Reuben Cannon casting a woman called Moses with Cicely Tyson.
Sure.
And that's where I had my aha moment going, oh, actors, I love these actors. And casting, there's no class for it. You just have to trial by fire.
Yeah, but would you say that you had for yourself personally a literal aha moment?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. That's so cool to know that you had that suddenly the clouds parted and your life suddenly had purpose.
Yeah,
I
It
mean,
was
really,
like-
a really specific purpose.
It was like, oh my gosh. And so I remember going up to Mel Johnson, who was doing the casting. I'm like, what do you do? How does it done? And all of a sudden I became that little person that was like, ooh. And then that was right around Christmas time, and the holidays came up and I was invited not to return. But I saw it.
Ain't that just like showbiz?
So anyway, I went, ooh, so I started looking in the trades, and that was the middle management. You know, there's the producers who I had brought the talent ideas to, and then I'm that middleman in between them. So it felt right. And I pursued it, and I did not get the job with Ramsey King when I first interviewed with him. And 6 months later, the job came up again, and I talked my way into meeting him again. And I walked in there and he said, I've met you before. And I said, I guess I'll keep coming back until I get it right. And then I called later and said that I'll work for free until he finds somebody. And at that time, he said, well, I don't want a casting director, I want an assistant. And I went, that's exactly what I want to be.
Just ask
In my
Sammy
career. Yeah.
Just call Sammy Jaffe, he'll tell you.
So
Wow.
anyway, he said, we'll start tomorrow. I walked in the next morning and the girl says, now you're starting to stalk us, you got to leave. And I went, no, he's hired me. And that was the beginning of my career.
Well, that's a great story, Victoria. It's a study in persistence and perseverance. But you know, because you had the vision, you had that. There's no choice but to do it.
It's when that hits you and you have the energy. It's like I would be excited to go in early and leave late, and that's when the Xerox machines did one sheet at a time most of the time, and you're making scripts and agents were coming into your office and pitching their actors for your show, and I would watch all this and it was exciting.
But the perseverance comes through. I mean, in our business, in almost any area you go into, it's all about that perseverance.
Yeah, I agree. Because we spent a lot of nights, cursing, but still wanting to, be there and get it done.
In the first season of the Tales from the Crypt of the Hell Not to Make a Movie podcast, we did tell the story of how you guys, Victoria and Gil, worked together for the first time. Let's recreate that moment.
Well, I was looking to be a writer's assistant. Sorry.
What was the project, Gil? It was up the
when Gil and I first started. When we first met.
Was that Up the Pentagon?
Up the Pentagon, and Barbara Clayman was the casting director, and I was the associate.
Okay.
And I just had such a blast with Gil. He was so cool. He was so accessible. So, I mean, you were just awesome, Gil. It was just so easy to work. You wanted to deliver. And Barbara was like, yeah, she's this old bad, like she was kind of old and sassy, and she was onto so many things. And God, I love her too. But yeah, everybody has their style. So he must have remembered me, because when I was at Green Epstein sitting in the office, I remember it vividly. Gil calls me up and said, hey, so I have this little project for you to read. And right, Gil?
Yeah.
And I got it, and I was sent yellow.
Yes, right.
Just a little project.
Just a little project. And just for those who, I'll bring the whole audience up to speed. Yellow was the last episode of season 3 of Tales from the Crypt. It was supposed to be the last episode ever of Tales from the Crypt, but in the middle of season 3, because suddenly it was popping again, HBO decided to keep Tales from the Crypt going, and instead of being the last episode, it was a celebratory episode, and so we invested more time in it. We recreated World War I out in Simi Valley
Oh my
because
God,
because
yeah.
Bob wanted to pay homage to one of the movies that he loved when he was in film school at USC, which was Stanley Kubrick's Paths to Glory, which is a World War I story starring Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, and his son.
Right. So the trick was when Gil and I came aboard, that had actually, I think, was supposed to be a two-fisted tail.
Yes.
Originally. Yeah, I think it was supposed to be a two-fisted tail. And then because we weren't going to be going out the door, we were going to be hanging around. It was kind of the launch into next season with this big thing. And the problem was, Bob wanted Kirk Douglas for the part, but the script wasn't good. It wasn't adequate. And Bob knew he couldn't send it to Kirk Douglas's agent because it would never get past the agent. It wasn't good enough. And so he turned to us and he said, guys, we got to get Kirk Douglas.
No pressure. No pressure. Just make the script so that Kirk Douglas will like it enough to do it.
Right. So then here's how the collaboration, really the film collaboration, works in such strange ways. All right, so we did our job and Bob felt like, okay, it's good enough. And so then he handed the script to you. So you were handed the script and the task of getting Kirk Douglas.
Yes. Yeah, it was. Well, Gil, weren't you involved with talking to the agent also with this on Bob's behalf? Because it was such a highfalutin, get.
Yeah, and Ken Kleinberg. Ken Kleinberg was Kirk's lawyer at the time. And I had dealt with Kirk and with Ken Kleinberg years earlier on a movie that I made with Brian De Palma. And so I kind of pretended like I knew him, even though I'm sure he said, who? Gil, what? And we chatted a little bit about it. And then I think, you sort of pushed and made sure that they reacted to it. And we pushed the way we could. And lo and behold, I think Kirk was interested in it, but there was an issue about his son being involved, wasn't there?
Yes, he did want his son. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, he really wanted to do it with his son.
Yeah.
And I think Bob liked that idea because of the relationship and the characters of what we were telling, in the story we were telling. And so
and it was a publicist's dream, from the point of view of a show that was going to keep it going. It just had all kinds of great PR angles to it.
Yeah. Plus they had been estranged a little bit, and so it was something to do together, which I think was a positive for them, wasn't it? How was it on set, you guys?
Oh, sometimes very tense, sometimes okay. I mean, there were issues between the two of them, and they didn't hide them from us. But
Eric was not a happy young man, and he had a groupie.
Oh,
he had a groupie. In between then and now, he has since committed suicide. So I'm incredibly sensitive to his struggles, and I don't say this so as to. I'm not belittling the fact that he had a groupie at all. It was strange because he hadn't really done anything, and he had a groupie, and so they had this really odd relationship, Eric and his groupie, and it just made, in order to get Kirk, we had to take Eric. And it was so, so these minor inconveniences, ultimately, it didn't make any difference. But at one point, I remember Eric, gosh, I think he changed one of his lines, and then I heard that he was approaching the Writers Guild looking for credit.
Oh my gosh.
That actually happened. And fortunately, having been through a few arbitrations, well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work quite that simply, friend, but okay, go and try, please.
Yeah. He was very polite, and nice with me the whole time, but I wasn't on set with you guys all the time to see all those nuances.
He was a sweet kid, but you knew you were handling, it was.
You needed the gloves.
Dynamite, yeah, and
Yeah.
But that is part of the nature of the beast that we inside the belly of which we all live.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he really did a good job.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Oh,
And
hey,
whether he was trying to prove it to his dad or prove it to us or prove it to himself, it really doesn't matter. He did a good job.
I'm going to put it this way. I think he was perfectly cast.
Yeah.
And really and truly, he was very much that part. And it's actually quite perfect that we're talking about an actor and a part. All right, let's go with this right here. Having cast a lot of actors, it's always been my feeling that I've never ever cast or wanted an actor to act. The last thing I want is an actor to walk in the room and act, because especially on camera, because that's what the camera will see. It will see them acting. I just need them to be. Just be you. We're going to give you a name that's not yours and stick some words in your mouth that you might not have thought of to say, but you just do all the emotional part, okay? Just do that as good as you can. And it's the actors who really have that facility with their own emotions. Yeah, that's just you be you. No, that's my feeling.
I heard a great quote that an actor had asked for some advice from someone, and the actor said, "Fill the costume." I loved that. I was like, this is great. And then another actor said, "They pay me to wait. I act for free." I loved that saying too.
That's probably closer to the mark. Really and truly. When I was when I was still young and thought I might act, I remember Robert De Niro was just getting started, and Gil has a great De Niro story, but for another time. De Niro, I was told, and I had it in my head, his objective was when he knew what his character kept in his left front pants pocket, he was ready to go.
Wow.
Which I thought was, really, really an interesting way for an actor to work, to never mind what they're going to say. It's to have that kind of intimacy that they know what that particular guy would keep in his pocket.
What was wrong with what was in his right pocket?
Well, now you'd have
to Gillism.
That's a conversation.
I'll ask him.
You have to have that with him, man.
Yeah.
Now, once you got the call to become Tales from the Crypt's casting diva.
Luckiest girl in the world at that point. You guys made it happen. I so am grateful forever.
It was such a fun show to do because everything and anything was possible.
Yeah. Well, what the difference was, you had a lot of directors coming and going in very short amount of time. We were doing it every 5 days, and casting and setting up sets and stuff. But what I admired about what you guys always accomplished, which you never came from a no place, you came from a solution place, so that everybody won. And there's those producers and that you deal with that come from no and first, and and then you guys were always like, let's see what we can make happen. Let's see what we can do. There's a huge difference in that working environment.
Well, at the end of the day, one can always rewrite oneself out of it. you might not like how the rewrite solves the problem, but you can rewrite your way out of it. So there's always a solution to the problem.
But you also have to be willing to do that. And you have
Yes.
to have an acceptance by the director, the actors, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just a process of, okay, I'm going to rewrite it. It's a process of, okay, I'm going to rewrite it. And what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And then it might require yet another rewrite.
Yeah, but it's a rewrite toward it's towards solving the problem. It's not just not spending the money or it's because that doesn't necessarily solve the problem. You still got to tell the story.
Right.
Having access to, we were willing to go out to almost anybody as we started down the road, and we had cool directors that we could point to, and there were, the most interesting, maybe the hardest role that we had to cast was Death of Some Salesmen, was the part that Tim Curry ultimately got.
Yeah.
Now, you had worked with Tim Curry before on It.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays the clown.
Yes.
Whose idea was Tim Curry for It?
Well, and that would be me. Because you're coming up with the ideas, and again, middle management, you're pitching it to your producers and your director. So it ended up, he was on quite a list, and then you have to get the approval from the network and stuff like that. But he became the everyone liked him idea. And it was just exciting because he came out of film, so it was like a really exciting get.
Yeah. But, what makes you a terrific casting director is you have not only an eye, but you have the passion, because as suddenly ding, 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 oh, now it all makes sense. It bit you, you got it.
Yeah.
There were actors who, when we were doing Tales, who you pitched so hard. Viggo Mortensen, his name comes to mind. And man, you were the biggest fan of Viggo Mortensen. I think at that point he had just done the submarine movie with Sean Connery, Red something.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it was a small part. And he did not have a huge body of work, but you saw something in Viggo Mortensen that I honestly think you saw Viggo before anyone else on the planet saw him, and all right, it probably helps a little bit that you cast Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So you could bring him to the director's attention, and hey, once you've made the suggestion, bring Viggo in. Read Viggo, think about Viggo. Then Viggo has to do all the rest of the heavy lifting.
Well, at that point, he didn't, in Lord of the Rings, it was an offer. But what I did do was I brought him to the table for the remake of Vanishing Point.
Sure.
Which
That's right.
was done. And that was his first TV, starring in a movie. And so that was exciting. That was considered a big get at that point. And then Lord of the Rings was next, which was wonderful.
But still, it's, for people not in the community of the filmmaking community, he was nobody.
Right.
He was literally, that was still, he's the guy. He's the king.
Yeah.
He's one of the main stories we're going to follow through episodes 1, 2, and 3. And if we don't like him, by the time we get to 3, there's going to be empty theaters.
Yeah.
And so it is such an important piece of casting, and yes, you might have made an offer, but man, that was still a leap of faith on
it was exciting.
Money's part.
Yeah,
a huge leap of faith.
He filled the costume.
And I bet you he knew what he had in his left front pocket too.
Nobody wants to talk about the right pocket. I don't get that.
Yeah, well, there's probably a reason for that.
So Vic, could you just talk a little bit about, I think people out there are really interested in, so how does a casting director relate to the various people, that they're working with, the producers, the directors, the studio executives, the network executives, and how does that all sort of fold together? And I think it sort of starts with you and I guess the director, but can you just give us a little bit of a rundown of how that usually works and what the pitfalls might be?
Well, in a nutshell, it's making sure that we're realizing everyone's perception of what they want to happen in the movie or the project.
Mhm.
So I get your input. Alan may have his input. Let's say you have 3 or 4 producers and each one has a vision of the way they see the character as written. You've got the writer's vision, the director's vision, which should be first and foremost, everybody's agreed that the director's vision is why he's there.
Sure.
Or she. And then with all that information about the way they see the characters, and the studio may say, well, we need to satisfy it with a name, and that can be television or film. Our job is to go out there into the community and find out who's available, who's interesting, who wants to do it. And hopefully, which we had happen on Tales from the Crypt, if you cast 2 people, they aren't ex-boyfriend and girlfriend that have an issue.
Yikes.
Which we did have. Oh my God. So it's us doing that kind of groundwork and creativity, and then also bringing in our own vision and sometimes pitching it to you guys to say, hey, we've been looking here, but take a look at this. And that's the fun part for us. And then, you guys make the ultimate decisions.
Did we hire an ex-boyfriend and ex-girlfriend to work together
Yeah.
on Tales?
Yeah.
Who were those people?
I was actually on that show.
Who did we hire?
Wait a second, do I have the, oh darn, I don't have the picture here. It was Mark Dacascos and Stoney Jackson. They were in the show, and I've got to remember her name. And I'm so sorry for that in the background.
I will look it up, and I'll drop that in. We'll add
Yeah.
that. We
Margene Holden.
Margene
Holden, and it was when they were doing the boxing. It was the
one with
cage
Wayne
fighting.
Newton. It was John Harrison's episode.
Oh gosh, by director.
Wayne Newton is
yes, he plays the
Wayne
announcer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came in for a day. He was so excited to do the show. I remember that he flew himself in, didn't he?
He did.
I do recall that. Yes.
He was like, yeah, I'm there. Well, how do we get you here? I'll fly in,
Right.
It's so
And
great.
that's exactly how it went. Because when we said, how are you going to get here? He said, oh, don't worry about that. I'll fly in.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think, Alan, I went back to you and I said, I'm not sure I understand what he means by this.
What do you mean? With his arms or
He's going to give us a bill? I mean, he's going to fly himself in. So what does that mean?
I just flew in from Las Vegas, and boy, are my arms tired.
So that was where I had to do a little bit of management control and convince Mark Dacascos to do it, because he was very upset that she was cast, because it was not a good separation. So, but they were both professional.
Who did
And
we cast first? Who would we cast first?
Mark was cast first.
And did we know that? All right. Did we know they were in a relationship?
No.
All right. So,
Not
well, that
until
was
I-
unlucky, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, I wouldn't have thought to put those two together.
Of all
they
the
both
gin joints
had
in all the
martial
world.
arts experience. So
And because of our show, is it true that they got together and they're happily married today?
Happily ever after.
yeah, but they were both professional and did a great job.
If you were going to cast an actor to play you, Victoria, who would you cast?
I think you asked me this before. Who
No,
did
well,
I-
it just occurred to me again. Well, all right. So who would you cast to play you?
Hmm. Yeah.
Anyone come to mind? Who could anyone capture you? It's funny if, all right, if you asked me to an actor to play myself, it would be, I can't think of anyone either. It's a hard question. All right, I withdraw the question.
It is. No, you can't. Well, now in terms of thinking age and somebody that I do like as an actress, Sharon Stone might do a good job.
Well, that's kind of interesting. All right, let me add to the question this way. All right, as you look around at your fellow casting agents, and it's not, if there's a name that's on the list, it's disrespectful, but who are the casting, are there fellow casting agents who you think of as absolutely primo?
Oh, I think April Webster is a terrific casting director.
What makes April a great casting director from a casting director's point of view?
She just digs in deep, So she's one of those that's very committed and artistic. I remember her casting Kevin Costner in his first movie, so we all have that kind of one, it's like I was part of the Johnny Depp casting in 21 Jump Street, and Ken Wall in, Wise Guy. And so there's those, and she had some of those too. So
those iconic castings were on her credit list.
Yeah, she's got that too. So
who are the ones that you are absolutely proudest of, that you thought that's a Victoria Burrows casting?
You mean actors that I'm proud to have cast?
Yeah. A part where you saw it and you fought for it and you got it, and it was.
Well, when when we were recasting the part in 21 Jump Street, we had Charlie Stratton, Josh Brolin, and Johnny Depp, and albeit each one of them was terrific, but you just saw the Johnny Depp factor being it. He filled the costume the best at that time. So I went into the execs and said, he's a movie star. And it was just, it was almost like I didn't even think, it just came out, I knew Vigo was special. And I was really excited to bring Kelly Riley to Flight with Denzel Washington. And now she's on Yellowstone.
Right.
And she's working with, Bob again. And, so that there's.
Now you do pretty much all Bob's movies. You just did Pinocchio.
Yes,
that with was Bob.
Good. Yeah.
Thoughts about casting Pinocchio?
Well, I'm proud of our cast because that was kind of in pandemic, and we cast it from my front porch. So it was like the office would come. And we would, we had actors, putting themselves on tape, and
is this your front porch in Houston or your front porch in LA?
In LA,
cool.
At Venice Beach.
Cool.
So yeah, we found Stromboli out of Italy. So you just we were able to cover our lead boy Pinocchio was from England. And so was our little ballerina girl. I think it was her second acting job. It was so much fun. It was a lot of work. I mean, we must have seen 300 and 400 videos, auditions on each role.
Oh boy. Wow.
So, because again, you need to cover the bases so that everybody feels good about the choices, and so that was it was a feel good, and adding the diversity factor, so and it was fun getting Joseph Gordon-Levitt to play the cricket. So he did a great job. We had done the walk with him, And then Cynthia Riva was a really good get for the Blue Fairy. That was a fun, creative choice.
I have a word that I want to just drop on the table: softball.
Mhm.
Will there ever be another Victoria Burrows annual softball game?
There probably will be, but I'm just not sure how soon.
He's also not sure what city it'll be in. That might be in Houston.
No, it's going to be in LA. Are you kidding? I'll be there with you guys.
Yeah, it was Victoria hosted for years and years and years a celebrity softball game in right across from Fox.
Rancho Park.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a birthday celebration, wasn't it?
Well, it became that, and you guys used to come to that.
Because that became, I know I hadn't been to it for a while, but I know that it was huge. There would be like 500, 600 people there. I mean, massive. It was
word of mouth. We used to,
oh my God, it was a huge event.
To play. Yeah.
But the names of the people, George Clooney.
Yeah, there's Ron Perlman, Sharon Stone. It was just, it went on and on and on. And then we turned it into a birthday thing with Jay Acavone and myself. And so
Victoria's birthday softball game was a Hollywood event. Hey, Victoria, it's just a fact of life. I found a blog post which we'll put up alongside the blog that accompanies this podcast, which we'll link to it. There's a whole blogcast, a whole blog post that someone did about attending the softball game.
Really?
Yeah. I will send you that, and we will link to that here in the post. It's terrific. It's very complimentary, and it's just how much fun to be at this softball game where there's just this vibe and all these stars, and there are pictures too.
I wonder if any smart young producer in those days went to the softball game in an attempt to cast his movie.
Well, that's where Ed and I were on a softball team together, which is how I met Ed.
There you go.
Ended up getting Ed to you guys, right?
Lucky for us.
And so, but hey, it's such things that where it's all about relationships.
Yes.
And so this is how you form relationships and you bond with people. And if these are good, real bonds, hey, they persevere, strange enough. I wanted to get in your animal rescue.
Star Paws Rescue.
How can anyone listening to this podcast help?
Well, with having Star Paws Rescue Foundation, I've been doing that for 20 years plus. Going on to the Facebook and our website, starpawsrescue.org, and they can make donations. It's really just to help us take care of the dogs, and or if they want to foster, they can let us know about fostering to take care of dogs in need, so that would be wonderful ways to help. And if it's not us, then just finding a rescue, helping rescue in general is just a wonderful thing.
Here. Absolutely here. Victoria, it has been so much fun to catch up with you.
Thank you. You too. I just miss you guys so much.
Well, all right. We'll just drop this here on the table. Gil and I are working on some stuff. And hey, if we get dragged back into this mess, you're going to get dragged back into this mess with us.
I will be right there.
That's a threat.
But we're not saying anything else because we're
no.
Yeah.
ways away.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But still, you know what? We ain't done yet.
Yeah, that's for all of us too. So,
although we ain't done yet, perversely, we are done with
you
the
guys,
podcast.
Have you guys ever shared which episode was your favorite one? Was there one that stood out? Because I'd love to ask you both before we go. If we
Okay.
have
So
time.
now you're going to extend the podcast? Okay, let's
And
extend
just
the
a wee
podcast.
bit.
Well, no. But okay, if you're going to ask okay, which is the favorite episode?
That one that was a favorite of yours.
All right. Oh, Gil, go ahead.
Oh, I liked a lot of them. I really liked a lot of them.
Can't choose among your babies, can you?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, they were so different because some of them were more violent and some of them more frightening. Some were more romantic. Some were more comedy. So I don't think I can really say which is my favorite. I really like them all. And when we were making them, of course, when you're making them, the one, we were making 5 of them at a time. So we were shooting only 1 at a time, but 2 were in prep and 2 were in post.
Yeah.
So that, you're in this quagmire where it's almost like you're on a wheel that it just keeps going, and every 5 days another one comes off the assembly line and we're on to the next. So while you're making them, it's very intense, and I never really thought about like which one is my favorite.
I have moments from a lot of different episodes that are favorite moments.
Yeah, that's good.
The sex scene in Death of Some Salesmen is just the way that the two of them, both Ed Begley Jr. and Tim Curry, played that scene. It's everything Tales from the Crypt that we wanted it to be. It was so twisted and dark and awful and so much fun.
Oh yeah, I wish there was a way that we could all do some more tales. I know, but,
well, we're working on it.
It was magic. Even being in Chatsworth, next to the porn studios.
Right.
We'd have to shoot it there just for old time's sake.
I remember actors used to come in and they would come to my office and they'd say, well, you told us the address, but that's not really the address because you share it with this other stage. And we went over there first and we walked into a stage, everyone was naked.
Oh my gosh.
And I would say, oh, well,
Those are the days.
if you feel the urge, just, it's okay. We're only next door.
Well, I thank you guys for having me join you in this adventure. It's been great.
It has been, and it ain't over yet. That's the best part of it. There's still, that's the cool things about a good story. It twists and turns in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, thank you for joining us, everybody, and we'll twist and turn next time with you.
Thanks, Vic.
Thank you, guys. Okay, big hugs.
The How Not to Make a Movie podcast is executive produced by me, Alan Katz, by Gil Adler, and by Jason Stein. Our artwork was done by the amazing Jody Webster, and Jason Jody, along with Mando, are all the hosts of the fun and informative Dads from the Crypt podcast. Follow them for what my old pal the Crypt Keeper would have called terrific Crypt content.